Hi, it's Troy Anderson with Allied Code, and I've got Ruby on my mind. I'm sitting here with Scott Rodriguez, and we thought we might talk about Agile.
Hey, tell me what all the fuss is about Agile.
So, Agile is been talked about a lot. There's a whole history of methodologies for teams and managing teams and working with teams. It started. Henry Ford had the assembly line. It went through Toyota with lean practices, and Agile is a tool that's used today, or a methodology used today, to develop software. But one thing I find in working with clients and working on those teams is sometimes they think that the team members think they know what Agile is, but they actually don't. They have a stand-up every day, and they talk through stuff, and they decide that's an Agile process, but they're actually missing some of the fundamentals that make it really powerful and really produce outcomes for their business.
So let me ask you a question. What would a stumbling block for a company be that's trying to implement Agile?
Well, one of the things that I see a lot is a company will say they're doing Agile, they'll do their stand-up meetings, they'll do the things that are part of the Agile process, or part of the Scrum, which is a big part of Agile. But what actually they're doing is Waterfall. They're driven by, so Waterfall is an old management style, a project management style that is based on define the requirements upright, figure everything out you're going to do, and then start, estimate it, figure out all the price, and then work for months and months and months, and then come with outcome. That's great if you're building cars, and cars change every few years or every year. But when you're doing software and the things change every week or every day, you need a different style. So they say they're doing Agile, but they're actually doing Waterfall, and that's often driven by company leadership, because company leadership wants that predictability of price and predictability of time. They don't realize the cost when they ask for that predictability, which is resistance to change and inefficient workflows and more difficult to manage teams.
So I've heard this is straight for development. Why would you want to use it for, can it transfer over into other parts of your organization?
So where Agile was created by software developers to sort of deal with the problems that Agile produced. But what's the concept of self-organizing teams into something that works really well for much more than just developers. I've seen companies implement Agile for their sales team. I've seen them implement it for their marketing team, for other operational teams besides software development. When you understand the principles of Agile and you understand the purposes, and then you start seeing how to apply the practices and really produce a team that's self-organizing, self-managed, that produces outcomes-based actions. So they're more focused on, and what happens is they become more efficient. The team gets better, works better together, and there's less management going on. And the meetings that occur are more efficient, more effective, and more productive.
So then you would say you could implement Agile from a top-down basis, all the way from management to sales to marketing to every part of your team, and it would probably make the changes that companies are looking for to make their organization more efficient all the way around.
One of the structures that I've seen really work very well, implemented in companies that I've worked with and consulted for, is they'll bring it. They may have Agile already going on in their development team or their development teams, or they may be adding that to the team. But then they add it to their other operational teams, and that might be a weekly or every other week kind of a sprint that they're applying, which is basically sprint. You set up your expectations, you do the work, and then you report back about it, and you grow, and the team improves through reflection. That might be a 2-week heartbeat, but then the management team, when they jump on board, and the leadership team jumps on board, they might do the same thing, but they'll do it on a monthly or quarterly basis. What's really cool is when they start taking their annual objectives, turning those into quarterly objectives, applying an Agile methodology to taking care of those objectives, and then using those quarterly objectives to tie into their individual teams' weekly or bi-weekly objectives. It really starts to mesh, and the teams operate efficiently and effectively, and they grow in their ability to work better together over time.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you one last question on Agile. So when it comes down to change, everybody knows that people fight that. What have you seen with companies who have started to implement this system? Does it help with the change, or do you have people fight it, or do they grab onto it quicker than they would some other change?
So change is a really powerful word in Agile, and it's one of the fundamental purposes of Agile is to embrace change. Now, Agile itself is a methodology, so the people that use it, why do people resist change? They resist it because they see cost, they see energy they have to spend, they see a shift in their thinking, they see I've got to do a new budget, they see risk and change. But the reality is, a small business, a medium business, any business unit, it's like they can't control the environment that they're in. They have to be able to take advantage of change. And so we talked about Waterfall a bit ago. Waterfall really suffered with change. You had to go back entire phases in the process in order to deal with a small change. With Agile, we talk about 1 and 2 week increments in planning. We plan for a couple of weeks, we execute, and then we complete the plan. That allows a team to focus on unchanging objectives for a couple of weeks. But it allows the leadership or the stakeholders to say, oh, we get to change direction. They make that change direction. They make a plan to change direction, so that by the time the direction change hits the operational team, they're ready for planning a new sprint. And so to them, it doesn't look as much like a change as just the next plan.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. That was really well explained.
It was my pleasure. I'm Troy Anderson with Allied Code. I've got Ruben on my mind.